Hallo Deutschlerner, if you've seen words like damit, he said damn it. I said damit, womit, I said womit, davon and danach in your German learning, and you aren't quite sure how to use them, stick around as I entangle this bag of snakes. I learned German through the old school methods, high school and university classes. Since then I've been teaching German to a whole new generation of German learners, both in person and online via YouTube. I figured out how to use these da and wo compounds, and if you want to figure them out too, this video will help you on that quest. I've already made 2 videos about da and wo compounds. The first one talked about them in broad strokes, the rules, usage, that kind of thing. The next one I talked about them in combinations with accusative prepositions and da compounds. This time I am focusing on the dative prepositions, aus, bei, mit, nach, von, and zu. If you're wondering what happened to the other dative prepositions like außer or seit, they can't be combined with da and wo like these can. If you're wondering about prepositions like an and in, those are Wechselpräpositionen, which can be either accusative or dative, and I'm saving those for the next video. Before we get into the da and wo compounds for today, here's a quick reminder of how they work. Take a preposition and add da in front of it to say something like out of that or with that. Add wo instead of da to get something like out of what or with what. In many instances, these words will take on a new translation instead of just the preposition translation plus that or what. If the preposition starts with a vowel, add an R between da or wo and the preposition. On the screen now you will see a list of dative prepositions that can be used with da and wo compounds, and what they mean. With a few exceptions, they are mostly translated as a combination of preposition and that or what. Let's take a look at the preposition aus. This preposition is generally translated as out of or from when used alone. Daraus means something like out of that or from that. The wo version woraus is like out of what or from what. For example, woraus schließt du das? From what do you conclude that? Woraus schließt du das? Nimmt nichts davon. Daraus kann man schließen, dass kein Interesse hat. He isn't taking any of it. From that, one can conclude that he has no interest. Nimmt nichts davon. Daraus kann man schließen, dass kein Interesse hat. Quick side note here, as a general rule of thumb, when deciding between aus and von in order to say from in German, if you can use out of in English, you can probably use aus in German. If you can't say out of without it being weird, you probably need von in German. You don't get a letter out of your mother. You might get one from her, but out of her sounds weird at best and gruesome or morbid at worst. Those last 2 examples don't really help us with distinguishing between von and aus. The combination of schließen and aus is one of those verb and preposition pairings that don't really translate well, and some people call verbs with fixed prepositions. I have a couple of older videos about these, but I will be coming out with a fresh take on these in a few weeks. I'm looking forward to spending more time on these and to help you really understand how to use them. The short version of why we use aus with schließen in order to say to conclude is because you could make a conclusion out of the information at hand. When you're using out of, like I just mentioned, then of course you need aus in German. When you want to avoid repetition, you can use daraus instead of saying out of the information that I just mentioned, or some other repetitive phrase. In English, however, this forces us to use from instead of out of, as out of that just doesn't sound right. Anyway, back to the examples of woraus and daraus. Woraus besteht ein Haus? What does a house consist of? What constitutes a house? Woraus besteht ein Haus? Es gibt viele Zimmer. Normalerweise zumindest ein Schlafzimmer, ein Bad und eine Küche. Daraus besteht dann ein Haus. There are many rooms. Normally, at least a bedroom, a bathroom, and a kitchen. That's what makes up a house. Es gibt viele Zimmer. Normalerweise zumindest ein Schlafzimmer, ein Bad und eine Küche. Daraus besteht dann ein Haus. Woraus ist dieser Tisch gemacht? Out of what is this table made? What is this table made of? Woraus ist dieser Tisch gemacht? Es gab früher einen Baum hinter meinem Haus. Daraus ist der Tisch gemacht. There used to be a tree behind my house. The table is made out of that. Es gab früher einen Baum hinter meinem Haus. Daraus ist der Tisch gemacht. The da and wo compounds with by can be a bit confusing at first glance. This is due to the complicated translations of by. The best I can do is to translate it as at most of the time. This avoids the confusion with mit, but also adds the confusion with an and zu. When I introduce this preposition to my students in my physical, in-person classes, I say something like at, near, or with. It's similar to being within a particular space around an object. This complicated nature often makes translating dabei and wobei difficult. The easiest translation for dabei is usually with that, but even then the translation falls short. For example, Er macht sein Zimmer sauber und singt dabei. He is cleaning his room and singing all the while. Er macht sein Zimmer sauber und singt dabei. In this case, I could have said with that instead of all the while, but the word that in English translation would have to refer to the cleaning of the room, which is not a function that it can perform in English. Let's try again. Die ganze Familie ist ins Kino gegangen, aber mein Bruder war nicht dabei. The entire family went to the movies, but my brother was not there. Die ganze Familie ist ins Kino gegangen, aber mein Bruder war nicht dabei. Again, with that could have been used instead of there, but with that would have to refer back to the family, and this again does not work in English. So how do we really translate dabei? Something like at the same time often works, as dabei is often interchangeable with the conjunction während, but not always. For example, Die Kinder spielten im Wohnzimmer, während ich mit ihrer Mutter in der Küche sprach. The children were playing in the living room, while I spoke with their mother in the kitchen. Die Kinder spielten im Wohnzimmer, während ich mit ihrer Mutter in der Küche sprach. You could also phrase it as, Die Kinder spielten im Wohnzimmer, dabei sprach ich mit ihrer Mutter in der Küche. The children were playing in the living room. At the same time, I spoke with their mother in the kitchen. You could also phrase it as, Die Kinder spielten im Wohnzimmer, dabei sprach ich mit ihrer Mutter in der Küche. Notice that I had to split the sentences apart, as dabei is not a conjunction and cannot be used to connect two clauses like während does. If you were to use dabei as a conjunction in that sentence, it would change the meaning of the sentence. Die Kinder spielten im Wohnzimmer, dabei sprach ich mit ihrer Mutter in der Küche. The children were playing in the living room, despite me speaking with their mother in the kitchen. Die Kinder spielten im Wohnzimmer, dabei sprach ich mit ihrer Mutter in der Küche. Now it implies that the children were playing in the living room and that was forbidden for some reason. Das Paket wurde ausgeliefert, während ich nicht zu Hause war. The package was delivered while I was not at home. Das Paket wurde ausgeliefert, während ich nicht zu Hause war. In order to use dabei here, we would have to rephrase the entire expression, which would in turn change the meaning. Das Paket wurde bei mir zu Hause ausgeliefert. Die Fernbedienung war nicht dabei. The package was delivered to my house. The remote was not there, or not in the package. Das Paket wurde bei mir zu Hause ausgeliefert. Die Fernbedienung war nicht dabei. While you can use wobei as a more traditional question word to mean something like at what or with what, it's much more common to use it as a sort of conjunction. While all of the wo compounds can be used as conjunctions to connect a subordinate clause with a main clause, the da compounds, with very few exceptions, cannot. Wobei can be used as a conjunction that introduces a clause that either adds an objection or a bit of necessary context to a situation. For example, Die Jacke sieht sehr gut aus, wobei man sagen muss, dass sie auch sehr teuer ist. The jacket looks very good, although it must be mentioned that it is also very expensive. Die Jacke sieht sehr gut aus, wobei man sagen muss, dass sie auch sehr teuer ist. Now on to my favorite da and wo compounds, damit and womit. I can't help as an English native speaker to say the words and vomit when I read these. Damit even made my list of words that sound dirty in German but aren't, link in the description for that fabulous video. That said, these words are actually quite harmless. They simply mean with that or with what. For example, Womit schreibst du? With what are you writing? Womit schreibst du? Ich habe einen Bleistift auf dem Fußboden gefunden. Damit schreibe ich. I found a pencil on the floor. I am writing with that. Ich habe einen Bleistift auf dem Fußboden gefunden. Damit schreibe ich. Ich habe vergessen, womit ich das Fenster putzen sollte. I forgot with what I should be cleaning the window. Ich habe vergessen, womit ich das Fenster putzen sollte. Womit kann ich Ihnen helfen? With what can I help you? Womit kann ich Ihnen helfen? Damit kann ich Ihnen nicht helfen. I can't help you with that. Damit kann ich Ihnen nicht helfen. Damit kann ich nicht einverstanden sein. I cannot agree with that. Damit kann ich nicht einverstanden sein. Kannst du mir sagen, was auf der Prüfung sein wird, damit ich mich besser vorbereiten kann? Can you tell me what will be on the test so that I can prepare better? Kannst du mir sagen, was auf der Prüfung sein wird, damit ich mich besser vorbereiten kann? Wait, I thought you just said that da compounds can't be used as conjunctions. Isn't that how you just used damit? Yes, absolutely it is. It's used as a conjunction, but it's one of those few exceptions that I mentioned when I said, while all of the wo compounds can be used as conjunctions to connect a subordinate clause with a main clause, the da compounds, with very few exceptions, cannot. I cover the conjunction use of damit in a lot more detail in my subordinating conjunctions video, but the short version is, it's used to say something like so that. It also pushes the conjugated verb to the end of the clause, just like all of the other subordinating conjunctions do. Here are a few more examples of how to use damit. Ich habe heute meine Hausaufgaben gemacht, damit ich morgen frei habe. I did my homework today so that I have tomorrow off. Ich habe heute meine Hausaufgaben gemacht, damit ich morgen frei habe. Er schläft jeden Abend 8 Stunden, damit nicht während des Tages müde wird. He sleeps 8 hours each evening so that he doesn't get tired during the day. Er schläft jeden Abend 8 Stunden, damit nicht während des Tages müde wird. The preposition nach generally means after, and it can be used to mean to or towards as well. When you add da or wo to it, it becomes after that or towards that, and after what or towards what. There are some idiomatic phrases that you use with the preposition nach. You can still express those phrases using the da and wo compounds. Here are a few examples of danach and wonach. Wonach hat dich gefragt? What did he ask you about? Wonach hat dich gefragt? Wonach riecht sein Auto? What does his car smell like? Wonach riecht sein Auto? Wonach sehnt sich sein Herz? What does your heart desire? Wonach sehnt sich sein Herz? Wir lesen die Rezensionen. Danach werden wir uns entscheiden. We are reading the reviews. After that, we will decide. Wir lesen die Rezensionen. Danach werden wir uns entscheiden. Sie hat ihre Schlüssel verloren. Danach haben wir lange gesucht. She lost her keys. We searched for them for a long time. Sie hat ihre Schlüssel verloren. Danach haben wir lange gesucht. Sie nimmt ihre Medikamente. Danach fühlt sie sich besser. She takes her medicine. After that, she feels better. Sie nimmt ihre Medikamente. Danach fühlt sie sich besser. I mentioned the preposition von earlier when talking about aus, as they are very similar in their translations into English. While aus is generally meaning something that was once inside of something else, von is a more generalized from. Here are a few examples of how to use davon and wovon. Wovon träumst du nachts? What do you dream of at night? Wovon träumst du nachts? Wovon redest du? What are you talking about? Wovon redest du? Wovon handelt der Film? What is the film about? Wovon handelt der Film? Mein Hund ist von zu Hause weggelaufen. Davon abgesehen war es ein guter Tag. My dog ran away. Aside from that, it was a good day. Mein Hund ist von zu Hause weggelaufen. Davon abgesehen war es ein guter Tag. Davon habe ich nichts gehört. I have not heard anything about that. Davon habe ich nichts gehört. The preposition zu can mean to or towards, which is usually how it's used when combined with da or wo. Dazu is like to that, and wozu is like to what. You can also use dazu to say something like on top of that or in addition to that. You may also recognize wozu from my video about question words that translate as why. Don't forget to check out that video when you're done with this one. Here are a few examples of wozu and dazu in context. Wozu brauchst du so ein großes Messer? Why do you need such a big knife? Wozu brauchst du so ein großes Messer? Wozu ist dieses Ding gut? What is this thing good for? Wozu ist dieses Ding gut? Wozu gratulierst du ihm? For what are you congratulating him? Wozu gratulierst du ihm? Ich nehme den Rinderbraten und bestelle eine Portion Pommes dazu. I am taking the roast beef and ordering a serving of fries with it. Ich nehme den Rinderbraten und bestelle eine Portion Pommes dazu. Der Schuldspruch wird wahrscheinlich dazu führen, dass Menschen auf der Straße protestieren. The guilty verdict will likely lead to people protesting in the street. Der Schuldspruch wird wahrscheinlich dazu führen, dass Menschen auf der Straße protestieren. Dazu empfehle ich diesen Rotwein. I recommend this red wine to go with that. Dazu empfehle ich diesen Rotwein. The only real way to master these da and wo compounds is to practice them. Unfortunately, if you don't know if you're using them properly or not, your practice may only serve to solidify bad habits instead of building your understanding for these words. With that in mind, I encourage you to try them out in the comments down below and check your own understanding of this topic. If you're ready to continue learning about the da and wo compounds, click this link over here where you'll find my playlist that explains every aspect of the da and wo compounds, from the basics of how and why to use them through the specific use of each preposition combination. Check it out and I'll see you over there. Tschüss!